Hi, my name is Tom and I'm a building surveyor, and I've used moisture meters or damp meters lots of times. So today I wanted to talk to you about the best ones to buy, how to use them. But first I wanted to just run through, there's basically three techniques to determine moisture within a building, and that's the carbide moisture meter or the electrical resistance meter, which is basically the moisture or damp meter. There's also protometers, which are the next sort of version on from a damp meter, and laboratory testing. Now, electric resistance meters are the most commonly used bit of kit for determining moisture within a property. They normally don't actually look like this, but that's kind of the gauge ones you can get. That's more the normal ones you'll see nowadays, handheld, sort of small moisture meters with there'll be two prongs in the top of that. There's a cap on that one. As you can see, there's the two prongs, and most of them have a digital reading which will tell you the percentage of moisture when you press those two tongs into a substrate. Now if you click on the link below, there'll be a list of the most popular ones and the cheapest ones. There'll be reviews and things, so if you're looking to buy one, they're all pretty similar, sort of small handheld battery operated devices. Some of them do have gauges on, which will be yellow or green at the bottom, and as the moisture rises, when you press it into something wet, the gauge will rise and go to red. Sometimes there'll also be a noise with it, so if the gauge was to go towards red, you'd hear this woo, so that would indicate that there's a lot of moisture in whatever you're testing. So they've also got a turn off facility, so they'll turn off after X amount of seconds. And like I said, most of them come with batteries inbuilt nowadays. So they're a very useful bit of kit, not that expensive now. I'm not going to actually show you me using them because there's lots of other YouTube videos showing people sticking them into walls and things, so it's all pretty simple. There's another one, another classic one you'll see. Right then, this form of meter will measure certain ranges of moisture within timber. They'll also provide a reasonable indication of the level of moisture within other materials such as plaster, stone, brick, concrete, wallpaper and things like that. But they're primarily used for timber. As I said before, the prices come down over the years, so they're quite cheap now. You can get them for under £10 or $10. And as I've said before, you basically use them by just pressing the two prongs into whatever substrate you want to test for moisture. And the way they work is an electrical current is passed through the first prong, which is powered by the battery inside, and the current is sent through to the second prong. Now this is a bit of the technical stuff that I'm just going to briefly go through. The meter measures the resistance of the passage of current between the two prongs, and as water is a good conductor of electricity, or moisture is a good conductor, the higher the amount of current passing between the thongs will result in a lower level of measured resistance. So basically, the electricity passes from one prong to the other prong. It picks up the moisture because moisture is a good conductor of electricity, and it can measure the moisture as a percentage. Right, the most useful type of electric moisture meter is one that can not only measure the percentage of moisture content and give relative moisture measurements in concrete, brick and plaster, but can also be used to establish relative humidity and dew point temperatures. So, as I briefly mentioned before, this is a protometer. Now if you click below the link, and you might have to open up the description, I'll also show you where you can get protometers from. They're a lot more expensive than damp meters, but they're a much better piece of technical kit. Now 99% of people won't need a protometer. You can just rely on a damp meter. They perfectly do a good job. But perhaps if you're a surveyor, you might want something a bit more advanced, and this will tell you dew points and humidity in the atmosphere. So that will determine if condensation is a problem rather than, say, penetrating damp from the outside or rising damp. Going back to moisture and damp meters, these have proved extremely popular. They're small, light in weight, easy to use and read and operate, and they cause very little damaged surface to the decoration. You literally just pressing the prongs, as I said. But this is also very important. Your readings can be distorted by a few things. So the main ones you need to look out for is metals. If you press the prong near something that's metal, your readings are going to go through the roof. So aluminium backed plasterboard is a prime example. If you're pressing it into a wall and the wall looks dry but the readings are off the scale, then do some investigation work, break into the wall a little bit and see if there's aluminium in the plasterboard. Also, old walls can sometimes have salts in them. Now again, the salts will give you a very high reading, so be aware that they're not this perfect kit for proving damp. You've got to look a little bit further than beyond the surface. It's also worth mentioning that different moisture contents mean different things. So just because you're reading moisture doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem. So at 3%, which is obviously very low, wood is dangerously dry. Plaster would be very wet. Most bricks would be damp. Most mortars would be damp. And an engineering brick would be wet. On the other hand, the following materials are considered dry when plasters are below 1%, when wood is about 15%, bricks are between 1 and 2%, and lime mortar is 5%, whilst other mortars should be around 2%. Now, it's also a little bit more complicated that if you have a material made up of lots of different materials, then this can have an effect on the reading. So as I've said before, if there's metal within something, or you get composite doors that are made up of all sorts of materials, these materials could affect the readings, as is also environmental conditions and stuff like that. So to finish, a damp meter is a cheap and easy way of measuring if there's damp within a wall or on the surface of a wall. But really it shouldn't be relied on. I wouldn't go knocking down walls or breaking up floors just because there was a high reading. It's really a tool just to assess if there is a problem, and then you would investigate further. So all things considered, it's a very useful kit. Really, I would advise most homeowners to have it because it can identify very quickly if there's a problem somewhere. Definitely all surveyors should have them, and it's part of my kit that I use every day. As I've said before, in the link below you'll find a list of the most popular damp meters. There'll be reviews. You can sort by the cheapest first, and they're pretty much all the same. So yeah, if you want to look into the link, you'll see where you can purchase them. Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope you've learned a little bit more about moisture. Thanks, bye bye.